This video is going to review the process of starting a drawing in SolidWorks and using our SMCC template to do it. In this case, we're looking at some trolley parts. I'm not going to do all of them. I'm just going to show you generally what kinds of things you need to do when you create a drawing. So we'll start by creating a drawing. So it'll be a new drawing file. When you get the sheet format size dialog box that opens up, instead of selecting, and yours will probably look like this, you'll have that little check mark and it'll give you a series of metric size sheets of paper, starting with A0, which is the largest size, and going to A4, which is the smallest. You don't have to do anything here because we're going to browse to our own template. So go to the Browse button and then go and find the template you want. These are the templates that are shipped with SolidWorks. Our own template is on the R drive. AEDD 170, templates SolidWorks, and we're going to do a metric drawing, so we'll pick the metric template. Comes in and it'll give you a little image of what it looks like. You say OK, and now you're going to start with a B-size sheet of paper with our own title block in it. And the first thing it asks you to do is to select a model view to place in the sheet. I'm going to cancel that right now, and I'm going to do a little bit of setup work. What I'm going to do first is go into the middle of the sheet and right click. I'm going to go to the Properties button. This is one of the ways that you change the properties of a sheet when you're drawing. And when I pick the Properties button, I'm going to go and change the type of projection from first angle, which is the default setting in SolidWorks. It's a French company, so the default setting is first angle, to third angle. I'll leave scale set to 1:1. Pick OK. Come back out. Now I'm going to be able to place views with the proper projection for the United States. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to the Options tool. Generally, the Options tool is sitting up on this toolbar. Because I have my screen size reduced for this video, it's not showing. So I'm going to go to Tools. When I pick Tools, down at the bottom, it's off the screen right now, but at the bottom it says Options. It'll open up the Options dialog box. Pull this into View. What I'm looking for now is the Document Properties. Overall drafting standard, I'm going to go from ISO to ANSI so that we get dimensions that are set up properly for the United States. And there are a couple of things we'll change over here in the drafting standard. Not too many, but there'll be a couple. Under dimensions, and you can open that up and actually control what the individual dimensions look like. I'm just going to go to the dimensions head category. Let me pull that in where you can see it a little better. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'll leave Century Gothic as a standard font. That's a font that's normally used by SolidWorks. I'm just going to go over here to the right where there's a setting for Beyond Dimension Line, and that really indicates how far the extension line will extend past the arrowhead point. 3, in my opinion, is excessive. I'm going to change it to 1. And the dimension line gap, actually 1.5. The dimension line gap, I would change that to 1.5 as well. So what I've just done is modified the standard. That's why it says that the standard has been modified. So now, when I go back to Options and look and see what we're looking at for a drafting standard, it'll indicate that it's ANSI modified. This means that we've changed it from what it was by default. Now we're ready to start placing some views. Now you can go ahead and insert drawing views from the model. Not model items, that's something else. Model items would include things like dimensions used for creating the parts, would also include cosmetic threads, but we're looking to create a drawing view directly from the model. We're going to browse to our model, and I've got the trolley parts open here. And what I'd like you to do is to create 1 or 2 sheets, maybe more, that contain drawings of each part that are completely dimensioned. So I'm not looking for an assembly drawing here, I'm looking for a part drawing. So if I get down, our first part would be the axle. So I'm just going to pick that, place that in the sheet, and look at it and say, do I really need that large a view of that axle? And I'm going to say that I really don't need that large a view. This is from from an earlier problem I had when I was doing the video, that I had a non-responsive program. So I am going to send a report just because. And Microsoft asked me again, I'll send another report. It'll go through this process like that. Error report completed. We're all set. So anyway, I'm going back to my view now. Now, when I zoom in on this, It's just really unnecessary, in my opinion, for that to be presented at that scale. In this case, it's a 1-to-1 scale. So I'm going to select the view, go to the left where the feature manager is, drag down, and I'm going to change the scale by changing the custom scale from 1-to-1 to 1-to-2, and you'll see it gets a lot smaller. Now that's going to be one of my details, and I'm actually going to have you put more than one detail per sheet here. That's not done by every company, and there are some places where you'd want only one part per sheet, so when you give somebody a sheet, they're going to make that one part. But in this particular case, I'd like you to use the white space as effectively as possible. So now I've got this axle. I also want anything that needs a center line annotated. In this case, I go to the Annotation tab, go over here to the Center Line button. If I select those two lines, it'll put a center line in. It doesn't go quite far enough, so I'm going to grab the endpoints and drag it through. Now there's somewhat difference of opinion as to whether or not these holes going through should have center lines. I'm going to have you put center lines in by picking those two. Some people might not, and the reason they don't is because of the possibility that it'll be confusing. It'll look like there might be a circular part right there. I'm going to put them in though because I need to dimension to them. So now we've got the two holes going down through the shaft. We've got the center line going down through. Now you can add dimensions. I want all of your dimensions to be added using the Smart Dimension key. The reason I say that is I don't want, in this particular case, for you to insert the dimensions in the model itself. If you do that, all the dimensions in this drawing will drive the dimensions of the model. So that if you were to double click on a dimension in a drawing and change it, it would update the model. And I've found that very few people in the field use that particular tool. They do not want the drawing driving the part. They want the part driving the drawing, and I think that's probably good practice. So I'll come up here to Smart Dimension. What I'm going to do is go from that end to this end, and you get that little button right there. If you pick it, it's just going to throw the dimension into what it considers the best position. Now the best position in this case is 9 to 10 millimeters away from the part, with any subsequent dimension being only 6 millimeters away. Now before I go on, one of the things I do want you to do is to create a layer for your dimensions, and so I'm going to do that right now. In my system, I've already got my layer toolbar turned on. You can see it's right here down at the bottom. If I drag that away and then turn it off, yours does not have the layer toolbar turned on. To turn any toolbar on, you simply go to an existing toolbar, right click, and it'll give you a listing of all the toolbars. Layer is right there. Select, it'll turn it on. Normally it's in the lower left hand corner. If you go down here, there's only one control. You can actually pick layers, and I did include, I'd have to pull that up on the sheet for you. You'll notice that there are some layers here that came in with the title block, and I do have a grade layer that I've placed there, so when I put notes on your drawing, it'll be there. A little button that looks like a stack of things will bring up the layer command, allow you to create new layers. This really works a lot like AutoCAD. Since I'm putting dimensions on a new layer, I'm just going to go over and change the color. I'll change the color to blue. I'm also going to create another new layer, and this one's going to be called CON for construction. I'll make that layer yellow. And what I'm going to do is to place some construction lines on there, and then I can turn the layer itself off. I'll leave it on for now, but what I'm going to do really, I'm going to have several things that will help me dimension for this part, and when I'm done I'm going to pick the little light bulb. So I'll get out of the layer command. I'm going to drop that toolbar down where it normally lives, which is right here. The dimension layer is current. If I pick a dimension, go over and then pick the dimension layer that happened off the screen, but you can see my dimension just turned blue now. Now this actually is going to be out here because we also need to have a dimension from the end of the part to that center line. And again, if we pick that little quick dimension button, it'll go exactly the right distance away. You'll notice that SolidWorks always leaves a gap, even if what you've done goes to a center line. Sometimes you can drag it down and get the gap out of there. Sometimes you can't. I'm not going to have you waste a lot of time trying to fix that. It is incorrect from an ANSI dimensioning point of view, but there are certain things with SolidWorks that I've learned to just accept because the problem with making them right is that it takes far too much effort and sometimes causes other problems. So we'll leave that one the way it is. We'll come back over here and do the same thing. Put a dimension from the end to the center line. Pick that point. Now that first gap, 9 to 10 millimeters, the second gap, 6 millimeters, automatically held. We also now have a chamfer to put in. Go to your dimension tool, go to the drop down, pick chamfer. Now I'm going to show you when you dimension this, you have to pick two lines on a chamfer. And once you've got the two lines, it'll come up and it'll put the chamfer in there with the right format, although in this case more decimal places than I want. So I'm going to go over here on the right, on the left, pick it, go over on the left, and then go down to precision and set the precision to none. It's the wrong location. Process of setting up a sheet. Now, as far as the guide goes for the trolley, there is already a video on some of the special problems you're going to run into in dimensioning that guide, and I am not going to create a video that walks through the steps of all the dimensioning here. This is up to you. In fact, it's up to you how you lay out your sheets. Just make sure whatever you do, it's done correctly, and that means I'm going to look for proper dimension spacing, proper dimension style, vertical dimensions are not going to be acceptable. They all have to be horizontal. I'll accept a couple places where the center line gap exists because it's just very difficult, again, in SolidWorks. Even if I bring that down like that, it just doesn't want to stick. So